Uh, Give it a, yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Santa Maria Union School District Board meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 5 o'clock. If we could start with the roll call, please.
Mr. Neil Patel,
Present.
Ms. Alvariano, Ms. Sarah Turner,
Present.
Mr. Jacob Sandoval.
Here.
Ms. Cindy Lopez is not present.
Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion 4-0.
Okay, today on closed session, we have 2.1 petition litigation under Government Code Section 54956.8 and 54956.9. 2.2 public employee performance evaluation under Government Code Section 54957. And we have conference with labor negotiators for item 2.3. 2.4 public employee appointments under Section 54957. Can I get a motion to, oh, I'm sorry, is there any public comments on closed session items?
There are not.
Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn the closed session?
Motion to adjourn to closed session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion 4-0.
Okay, see everybody afterwards. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to reconvene back into open session. During closed session, the board took action to approve an additional 9 weeks of unpaid leave of absence for employee with ID number 160466. The board also took action to approve the employment of Rebecca Aleseo as principal for McKinnon Elementary School. Would you like to say a few words? Okay.
Before she starts, Miss Alicia has been assistant principal at McKinnon Elementary for three years. And you've been with the district prior to that as a math teacher at John Gutierrez Middle School. So she's going to take over the role of being principal at McKinnon Elementary now that Mr. Muchnick has moved over to Washington Union School District and his new adventure.
Great. Well, I would like to express how thankful I am to be here for this opportunity. Just as I was driving over here, I was just thanking God, my family, and Miss Alderman, Miss Moore, and Miss Summer Prather Smith, along with Miss Arellano, the whole cabinet team. I still remember the moment when Mr. Gutierrez asked me, "Have you ever thought about being an administrator?" And just started laughing. And so I'm just sobered by the trust you have in me, and I'm excited to lead our school with great care, vision, and conviction. Thank you.
No, just congratulations, and we're excited to have you take the lead. And so we know there's a lot of great things to come. So thank you. Does anybody from the board want to say any few comments?
I was delighted when we found out, and I'm excited for the future. Yay.
I too am excited for you, and I'm very happy that you are happy about the whole adventure that you're about to begin. I saw you for the presentation or for was it the recent, yeah, the promotion. And I was watching you. You didn't know that I was watching you, but I was watching your leadership. And you're ready. You're ready, and you've been ready for the past 3 years. So, congratulations, and hopefully, everything will be a great year for you. And if you need anybody to help you out here, we're being very supportive. So, yes.
Congratulations. But here's the thing, you've earned it through hard work, mentoring, being mentored, and so I wish John was here today. I'm sure I could see the joy in his eye, knowing that, a great teacher is following in his footsteps as well, and so thank you. Thank you for choosing Santa Rita School District. We owe you a debt of honor, and thank you for choosing us in terms of leading that school. It's a big deal to be a principal. All eyes are on you. And that takes a great leader to assume that position, to want it, to run for it and get it, So please continue the great work you're doing there and put in your vision. I like to think of each principal as bringing in their own talents, their own vision, on to a school. So make it yours. Make it yours. Make it a family. Thank you.
I want to acknowledge your husband. Oh, your brother. Okay, okay. Oh. Oh, that's good. Thank you for being here and being supportive.
Because everybody keeps saying that my grandson, not my son, my daughter keeps saying, oh, it makes it sound like very
Bye, Summer. Bye. Bye, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good dinner.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 5.1 to 5.3. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So motion.
Second? Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. President, anytime we have two people at the same time, I say we had let them arm wrestle. I think they
For what?
should. When they're both motioning at the same
Oh,
time.
for seconding, got it.
And
I missed that.
Wrestle.
Yeah, I say
Okay.
arm wrestle, or Doshido, one or the other.
Okay. Okay, moving on to 6.1. Is anybody here from SRTA? Any comments?
No.
6.2.
No.
Okay. 6.3, Superintendent's Cabinet.
I think we are all foregoing our reports. We've got some pretty substantial reports in our information items. Did anyone have anything real quick to add? No. Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to the Board and the Superintendent. Anything from Mr. Neil Patel?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Alvariano?
Just a note, just saying that I went to the two promotion ceremonies, one at New Republic and the other one at McKinnon. And both had different themes and both of them were just great. It was just a nice adventure for me to be there early in the morning, 8:30. And but it was a full day because from one New Republic, I went straight to McKinnon and then from there to my grandson's graduation. So it was a full day, but these two promotion ceremonies were very delightful. So
Okay.
I'm
Thank you
glad
for
we
attending, by the way, too. Okay. Ms. Sarah Turner?
Nothing to report.
Okay, just for myself, I attended both graduations. It's always exciting end of the year, see the staff, the students, the work they put in throughout the year. So just very thankful for all the staff across the board for making it a great school year for all our students and parents and stuff. And congratulations to all the graduates. Okay.
Just a reminder to our community that our district office staff will not be operating out of the district office for the next approximately 3 weeks. Our voicemail will direct you where to direct your calls if you need assistance, and then someone will call you back and schedule an appointment to meet with you if you need to meet with someone in person. We are having some renovation to our front entrance and the offices are being painted. And so we needed to vacate for a short window of time, but we're still here to serve the public. We'll just be doing it from a couple of different locations like the Gavilan View office, the boardroom, and those spaces so that we're still accessible to our community.
Okay, thank you.
And is that information going out or by Parent
will.
Square too?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, that's gonna be on the walls and stuff.
It will.
around-
So we'll have it posted out front in case anyone just arrives in person. We've adjusted our voicemail for anyone calling the office. We've put it as an alert on our website, and then we'll send it out via Parent Square as well.
Okay, perfect. Moving on to public comments.
I believe we have a public comment from our city councilman, Mr. Andrew Sandoval.
Whoa, feels like home. I really miss this place. A lot more friendly here. Miss Alicia was my kid's math teacher. So you have a great principal, somebody who really cares. Well, the reason I'm here to talk to you tonight, my name is Andrew Sandoval, Salinas City Council member for District 5. And unfortunately, the City Council has voted to repeal rent stabilization, tenant protections, and anti-harassment ordinances that we put in place. And for the first time, the community had hoped that the council would do something to assist with rents. And just to give you an example, this last year, if you pay $2,000 in rent, your rent only went up $60 as opposed to $200 for those living in multifamily residential, mostly the apartment complexes. And that amounts to about $1,700 a year in savings. There was also policies in place for to prevent harassment. When tenants complained about moldy carpet or any of these issues, they could actually address those with the city of Salinas, and the city of Salinas would then reach out to the landlord and get those issues addressed. And if there was retaliation, then the city could intervene. This is the first time that there's been an active jurisdiction willing to do that. Usually they have to go through the court system and find an attorney. And when you're being evicted or having issues, you really don't have money for that. There was also policies put in place to prevent evictions, not for those who don't pay, but for those who are unjustly evicted. And unfortunately, we're losing, we have the possibility of losing all those protections. And they are things that will affect our most vulnerable population, not just students and families, but our seniors and people on fixed incomes. And for the life of me, I can't understand why they would want to remove those tenant protections. But there's still hope. There is a community group that's coming together to, they've drafted a petition to issue a referendum. And if there's enough signatures collected, then we could stop this decision and put it to the voters. So if anybody out there, teachers, staff, I think we all know how important stable housing is for our families and our community. And so we are looking for support to collect signatures from registered voters in the city of Salinas. And I know everybody knows at least 10, 12 people in Salinas. So if we could do this as a community and everyone could just take a small piece of the lift, I know we can get it done. And we are under a deadline, first couple of days of July. But my goal is to get it done within the next 2 weeks. So if you have any questions or want to assist, feel free to reach out. I'm going to leave some right there on the area for you, and feel free to reach out anytime. And I appreciate the time, and hopefully we can count on your support. Thank you.
How many signatures do you need?
We need about 70. I would say 7,200 are required, but we're going to get 10,000 because there needs to be a buffer in case some are not registered or some may be disqualified. So, but just think of it this way: if we can get 100 people to collect 100 signatures, we got it. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So moving on to 8.1, public hearing regarding the 2025-26 LCAP. At this time, it is 6:11 p.m. and I'd like to open up the hearing.
Thank you. So this is our annual LCAP report and our public hearing on the LCAP. Dr. Prather-Smith and I are going to tag team this. The presentation is posted on our website to accompany the draft of our LCAP during this period between this board meeting and our next board meeting when these would be brought back to the board for approval. It has over 50 slides. We're not going to go through 50 slides. We're going to summarize some points, but it really outlines the key points and the metrics that align to our goals and actions. So, we ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So just what our LCAP is, remember it's that 3-year district level plan, our goals, actions, services, expenditures, and we're focused on supporting positive outcomes for our students to address our state and local priorities. And Ms. Moore put this together so everyone knows where we're at on our new LCAP cycle timeline. We are here. We are in year 1 implementation. We are at the point of reflection and revision heading into year 2.
Just a reminder that we're on my own protocol here. Just a reminder that a big part of the LCAP process is engaging with our educational partners. And as you can see, we really spent this last year making sure that we were engaging with all of these partners along the way. So at this point, we are bringing forward an LCAP that included all ideas. A quick overview, you're going to hear a budget report, so we're not going to go through the whole thing, but our LCAP allocation for the 25-26 school year, $12,426,431. You'll see that our LCAP planned expenditures exceed that amount. That is because starting last year, we're required to budget any carryover funds into the current LCAP. So any money that wasn't spent in the prior year has to be reallocated within that LCAP. So you'll see there that our planned expenditures are $12,952,797 to account for any carryover.
Okay, so real quick, our LCAP goal 1 to boost our student ELA achievement. We do that with teacher training, database teaching, personalized learning, and coaching. So we saw growth on our local formative assessments for most of our student groups. We're showing some early signs that those database and personalized approaches are having an impact. Our CAST scores declined in some areas, particularly for our EL and SPED students, and our team is responding with deeper intervention and coaching strategies. Parent engagement is a continued area of focus moving forward, and we're encouraged by the gains that we did see for our homeless students, and working towards continuing to lift all of our student achievement through those aligned instructions and supports. And remember, for several of our areas, this was year one of implementation. So we're hoping to see a greater impact of like our reading intervention programs that we started this year, moving into next year, and our EL curriculum. And so when you go through our metrics, you can draw your eye to what those scores are. We're not going to spend a lot of time going through those. This is really for that update of where we are with our metrics on those. And then heading into goal 2, it's very similar, but it's focused on our math. And so our local iReady formative math scores improved across nearly every group. And that really aligns to our stronger instruction and intervention with our adopted curriculum and those programs, and the scope and sequence work that was started for this school year being year 1. Our CAS performance on math was mixed, but we saw, again, gains for our homeless students. We saw our SPED students as a real highlight of those targeted supports that were implemented this year. Our surveys indicated that parent confidence in supporting math at home remains high, and we're just going to keep building on that momentum. We did a lot of math nights at our schools and things like that this year to keep that confidence going and building that capacity for our parents to support their students. And again, the following slides are going to be those metrics that we designated in our LCAP as what we're looking at to identify success in those areas. Oh,
No, you don't need that one.
all right. And then goal 3, similar. This is focused on our multilingual students' academic success, providing that inclusive curriculum, the targeted resources, supportive learning environment for them. And this was a major area of focus this year. And in terms of really wanting to focus on a big win for us is a sharp reduction in the number of long-term English learners, especially at John Gutierrez Middle School. So in our data chats that we've had with the board and our summer workshops, this has been an ongoing conversation about students who hit that plateau and just linger as a long-term English learner. And so our reclassification rates declined, and we're maintaining our LPAC levels improved. The achievement gaps persist, and our parent input, we had some decrease in some of those areas. And so we're really working to be more inclusive in that outreach and our culturally responsive practices with getting our parents in to help bridge that gap that may be creating that plateau for our students and the stagnation and growth. And so continuing to maintain language proficiency growth, and then reducing our number of LTELs or long-term English learners. And this was our first big push in implementing our English 3D curriculum across the board and focusing on our designated ELD time in all grade levels in the district. And so Curriculum Council had adopted that for implementation this year. So hoping moving forward into next year, we'll see the impact of that.
And I'll just add real quick, one of the programs that we're bringing forward to support our parents is next year we'll be doing the Latino Family Literacy Project. Some of you may have known that from previous. We did it in this district many years ago and then brought that back. And what that does is really support language learning through the use of literature at home and at school. So we're excited to launch that across all of our sites for next year also.
Yeah,
Like those
again, no, it's fine. And
metrics.
those, again, are those metrics where you can see some of that, the gap closing, and then some of the numbers staying very similar.
We put a lot of metrics. Goal 4 really looks at the use of technology as a learning resource, and we made notes to make sure we stay on time because I always have a lot to say. So we continue to ensure 100% access to technology across all of our sites. We're a one-to-one district, so all students and staff have access to technology, and that's fully integrated across all of our sites. There was a slight dip in digital learning minutes, meaning iReady time. However, for this year, we know that we've added in additional support systems to mitigate that lost time, and that we're positioned to deepen our use of technology as an instructional tool. You've seen some of those samples here in our Vizio, or not our Vizios, our ViewSonic TVs, and we're seeing more and more usage of that across our sites as well. And so just some of the data around our use of technology as a learning tool. In goal 5, we were really looking to focus on our special education students. If you remember, we shared last year with the new LCAP requirements. One of those is that we're writing goals and actions for any areas of identified need on the dashboard. Special education was one of those. However, as you heard Dr. Alderman share, special education did make some growth this year. Outside of that academic growth, 2 additional areas were a reduction in suspension rates and an increase in attendance, which we know that when our special education students are at school, we're going to see those growth areas in there as well. Academic performance remains a challenge for those students, but our data gives us a clear direction and focus for the upcoming year. This was the first year of implementation of Teachtown curriculum in our Mod Severe classrooms, and so we're expecting to see growth from that in those coming years as well. We really looked at differentiating the instruction across our special education classrooms, including within our RSP classrooms, offering more push-in support so that we can make sure our students are accessing the learning that's happening in their classrooms. And you can see some of that data associated with that. Special education attendance was definitely a special heart focus for Dr. Katis this year as she took over attendance, and we really saw that as well.
So for our goal 6, providing challenging instruction and support, especially for our underserved students, and to improve academic success and college readiness. So a big focus of our actions on this were how are families feeling about those meaningful opportunities to engage with our schools, and from our survey and engagement data, our families feel like they've had more meaningful opportunities to participate, and that's a huge step forward for us. And where we spoke about our CAS scores dipping slightly in some areas, and the perceptions about rigor for different groups feeling like it's gone down for some spots. That goal helps us focus on building deeper trust and those challenges and engaging across all of our student populations. And so the progress that we've made with our parent participation and coming into school sites, engaging in that, getting on our reels and our surveys and giving us the feedback, participating in our listening circles with us, giving us that genuine in real time conversations about what makes them feel welcome or not at their school site, so that they are engaged with us in making that more meaningful connection and what that looks like, gives us a real strong foundation to grow from.
And I'll add, sorry, one more thing. One of the areas you'll see when you're in there is we really have put an active plan into place to increase our parent volunteers within our classrooms for next year. And that includes the implementation of the Raptor visitor and volunteer system that'll allow parents to kind of pre-register, be ready to check in, go to that school site, be able to go into the classroom and start providing that support in addition to additional field trips that are required. This system was really important to us because unlike other systems where a clear identification card, for example, is required, this system does not require us to have that. We're able to bypass that system and use our own SIS system to do that verification process. So we're excited to launch that volunteer support as well.
And I know probably as
Yeah.
far as user friendliness for like Spanish speaking parents.
Yep, very, very simple. Yeah, very simple usage, and it's being used across multiple districts here as well for that system. So we waited for them to kind of implement and try it out. But yeah, it's the good part about it is once a family registers, they don't have to do it each and every time. So yeah, our liaisons will be able to help at the beginning of the year.
And that Raptor system is something that we've discussed in like facilities. It came up, and then we moved it over to our district safety and wellness committee as a conversation piece of not just the security aspect of having the badge identification that's printed out with the picture and we know where someone's going and the ease of knowing who's on your campus, but also the ease of parents being able to pre-register, connect, and they're already vetted when they come in, and it just speeds that process up for us for actually getting parents to be on campus and volunteering quickly.
And our community liaison's going to lead that. So Blanca will be the one who's kind of supporting and checking and doing all that. So our families have a direct connection to her as it is. So. And then here's some of the metrics related to goal 6. You'll notice that a lot of them are from the California Healthy Kids Survey. In goal 7, this is my goal. And so maybe that's why it starts out with, this is one of our strongest areas of growth, but no, I didn't write that. I didn't write that part, but this is one of our strongest areas of growth. Chronic absenteeism rates dropped across nearly all student groups and attendance rates significantly improved, especially for our foster and special education students, as I mentioned previously. Also, social media engagement also saw a dramatic increase. While we're continuing to monitor our students' perception, of school boredom, which is a report we get through the California Healthy Kids Survey. We're proud that district-wide commitment that helps students show up and connect each day have had visible impact, and we're seeing our students want to be here. And so some of the data related to that, a lot around absenteeism, chronic absenteeism and attendance. Our social media outreach, and then California Healthy Kids as a large part of that. Goal 8, which is also a goal focus for me, really looks at creating a supportive, inclusive school environment that prioritizes the well-being. This is where we have a lot of our partnerships with our mental health providers, as well as our school-based mental health teams. So what our student mental health data, and I shared with you a little bit previously, is showing us is that rates of social emotional distress compared to the state are lower for us, whereas before we were higher. So we're seeing a nice decrease, which is what we want to see overall. We've seen SEL lessons implemented across our school site using our Tier 1 second step curriculum as well. Although there's still a slight perception around middle school safety, we know that that's an area of growth. We saw fewer suspensions, less threat assessments, and less suicide risk assessments overall across all of our sites. It's letting us know that some of those protective and intervention supports that we put into place have been effective. We know that investing in the wellness of our students is an important aspect of investing in them academically as well. And so we're really seeing the efforts that were put forward in year 1 start to show that as well.
Well, goal 9 could be Claudia's goal, but I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it. So improving our staff recruitment and retention within our district, because that ultimately enhances our student achievement. A real win for us is a reduction in teacher absences this year. We know that's continuity and instruction and student learning. We had a little bit of a drop in our certificated retention this year, with our focus is on improving working conditions and recognition for the upcoming school year to really keep that positive momentum going. And then we're pairing that with strong partnerships, strategic hiring, and sustaining that growth and to create a committed and diverse team of educators. So when we go out, we are identifying what we're looking for when we're going and recruiting. Ms. Ariano and her team have already begun this year putting in some strategic actions in year 1 that we're going to build on in year 2 for that strategic hiring, and then those activities that help boost morale and let people know that we remain committed to their success.
And you can see some of the metrics associated that which really look at staff absenteeism and hiring rates. Goal number 10 is really looking at building our community's capacity to address racism, discrimination, and bias, which we know leads to improved student well-being. We're really excited this year to continue our partnerships with Building Healthy Communities as well as Centro Binacional in providing support services for us as well. We're seeing early progress, including more staff acknowledging the district's efforts to examine cultural bias and the inclusion of equity topics in curriculum council. Parent perception data shows we still have some work to do around building inclusive, respectful school communities for every family, though we've seen a substantial improvement in those scores on our California Healthy Kids Survey. The positive momentum in staff development and reduced suspension disparities provide a foundation for us to expand on and continue to work on for the upcoming year as well. And so, again, most of this data coming out of the California Healthy Kids Survey, as well as our student listening circles and our family forums.
And that is recapped here with what are our main successes. So looking at those district benchmark assessments and the increases that we saw there, really highlighting that reduction in our number of long-term ELs, particularly at John Gutierrez Middle School. 100% of our classroom using their technology tools. Parent participation in the California Healthy Kids Survey more than doubled this year. And then our number of threat assessments conducted declined this year. And so we've been reporting that data and keeping the board informed about that as an ongoing part of our school climate. And so focusing on that, do you want to speak to that?
So our focus, we're going to continue to focus on our reclassification rates of our English language learner, looking at our district adopted curriculum with fidelity and doing that through those continued learning walks and being in classrooms to see what's going on and where we can support. Tier 1 behavioral support interventions, we've created some additional tools that can be used during our cost meetings to really help address that Tier 1 so that we're not using our Tier 2 because we know that that's minimal and reserving that for the students who really need it. Really looking at decreasing our suspension rates, especially at our middle schools, by providing those early supports and intervention, working on continuing to develop our MTSS models, and then looking at our CASP scores overall and making those improvements that we know are going to happen with all the other pieces that we have in place. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? No? Okay. We're looking to definitely for our summer workshop, and then we can probably discuss more there. Okay. All right. At this time, there it is 6:31. We're going to close the hearing for the LCAP. And then moving on to 8.2, public hearing regarding district proposed budget for the 2025-26. It is 6:31, and I'll open up the hearing.
Good evening. So thank you, Summer and Melissa, for going over the LCAP budget, which covers most of the programs in our overall general fund. As you know, the LCFF funding covers about 80% for salaries and benefits. Then we have contract services and other expenses like facilities, maintenance, and oops, can you hear me? And materials and supplies, books, and all of that. And then we have the programming, which goes through the LCAP and now ELOP. So I'm going to go ahead and start the presentation. I have the control here. So I can move to the next slide. This is the July 1st budget. This is the first draft of the budget based on the May revise. These are the chart that you see up there is pretty much based on the assumptions. We might have, most likely, we will be having the 45-day budget revision. There's a lot of information that was not included on the May revise due to not having the specific dollar amounts. There is proposals that are still pending for approval. So once the state budget is approved, which is going to happen before July 1st, then we're going to go ahead and add that information into the 45-day budget revision. Some of the information that is not included in here, it was part of the proposal, like I mentioned before, elimination of some of the title grants, federal funding, which the one that they specifically mentioned was Title III, which is our EL entitlement. They talk about cash deferrals. That one, they're saying that it's for sure happening, cash deferral between June and July for 24% of our principal apportionment, which is about $1 million for our district. There's also a proposal for additional funding on discretionary PD grant, which again is not included, but will be coming up on the 45-day budget revision, and another mandated block grant, which again, they haven't given us the amount, and literacy grant as well, which we don't have the dollar amount yet. So that's coming in the future if the state approves those proposals on the next budget.
And there's a
Can
type.
you
I
go
think-
back? Yeah.
I think
type.
Melissa already caught it too, but should they circled it? Yeah, I think it's on the.
On our 25-26 average daily attendance ADA line, that should be 2814.
Okay, that's probably a typo. Thank you.
Yeah, I know. That's
You're
at first I was like, what?
Oh, that's right. Thank you for checking that. Tonight. Yeah, and that is correct on the one. Oh, no, it's not correct on this one too. Okay, thank you for noting that.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Can you go back one slide? I apologize.
Yes.
On the projected state COLA for 26, 27, and 27, 28, is that just guidance from the state?
Yes, that's a proposal for the May revise. As of now,
For-
well, every year they adopt just the current year. So right now, that's just an estimate. We're not gonna know until they actually adopt the budget on 26, 27, and 27, 28. So right now, it's just a proposal and estimate.
Yeah, I'm just surprised they're being so overly optimistic, considering the last few years, and then to jump from 1 to 2 to 3 to 3.5 almost is ridiculous. I always side on being conservative, so.
Yes, so we're going to be revising these numbers as we move forward, and this is included in the multi-year projection for the current year and 2 years out. But again, we will be revising as we move forward. And as you notice on the 24-25 budget, we keep revising the COLA for the next year every quarter, as it was very overestimated, and then it kept decreasing and decreasing.
So just for my clarification, when we do these budgets and gets approval from MCOE, the projected COLAs as they use to forward forecast for 3 years, do we have to go with that set number that's given by the state, or can we use an arbitrarily lower number to justify being a little bit more conservative?
The recommendation is to go with the proposal,
If
and
it's overly optimistic?
we can do that on a 45-day budget revision if we feel that it's way overestimated, and reduce it. As of now, most of the districts in California do follow the school services and the county as well. This is the recommendation that they do.
Yeah, I would like to get clarification from the county. If you can ask them, say, do we have to go with that number, or can each district choose to justify a lower or higher number based on what they believe to be projected numbers?
Mhm.
I don't trust state numbers very much at all, so.
Yeah, there's has been a lot of changes, so I totally understand that. We also, what we can do as well, working with the numbers on ADA as well, that also affects we're very conservative on those numbers as well. So that help us so that our revenue overall, it won't be overestimated. We're always being very conservative in our ADA. However, like you mentioned, there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of things that are happening, and we're going to be revising those numbers as we move forward. So this is just a picture of student enrollment history. Like I mentioned before, declining enrollment started in 2020, 2021, right during COVID, and it's been declining. For our 25-26, we are projecting continue to decline enrollment as well. Going to our general fund, as you know, even though we call it the July 1st budget, we're always working on 2 budgets, 2 years at the same time. So we're revising our last year budget, which is our estimated actuals, and our July 1st budget. So I'm going to go over some of the difference comparing the closing year budget versus the new July 1st budget. So as you can see, the LCFF revenue slightly decreased. This is due to, even though the COLA is higher, or ADA is estimated to be lower due to lower enrollment. So you can see a decline on on the LCFF revenue. In regards to the federal revenue, we did have some one-time funds, specifically one for the CUPS grant. It is a federal funding, which is not going to be available on this new year. We reduced that by very close to $500,000. We were using that fund to pay for the camera system district-wide. So we removed that expense as well, and you're going to see that on the expense side. On other state revenue, we also got one-time grants, which included CalShape one-time grant, as well as decreases on the ACES program as well. As you know, the program is now under the ELOP program, where we're getting additional funds in there. We also receive a one-time grant for the universal pre-K, which is not going to be available in the next year. We reduced the revenue as well. For local revenue, slightly decreased. We receive one credit this closing year for the MERMA dividend. As you know, it was a one-time deal. We're not rolling that over to the next year, so that's why you see a reduction in our local revenue. Overall reduction in $1.2 million. As you can see, most of it comes from one-time funding, not available on the new year. With certificated salaries, so there has been a lot of going up and down, and I'm going to try to explain it the easiest way possible. As you remember, during the second interim, we found savings due to reduction in teacher absentees, so reduction in substitute teachers. We found savings in there, so we reduced the budget. And then we got into negotiations, which it is included on the board agenda. You're going to see more details on that. It is a 2% increase proposal to the salary schedule for SRTA. It's included in here. That brought an increase by almost $500,000. And then again, if you remember, we were working on decreasing the overall expenses. We found some savings in the overall salaries for teachers, and that was pretty close to $1 million due to attrition, vacancies that we had for the end of year, and positions that are not going to be filled on the next year. And then we had a step in column. So overall, with those ups and downs, we still managed to have a reduction of $223,601, as you can see. We also reduced that one-time payment that we provided last year. We took that out of the books this year. Classified salaries slightly increased due to step in column. On benefit side, you're going to see a significant increase. This is due to we have a high number of vacancies during this time of the year. So whenever we have a vacancies, we do set it up as if they're going to have a family plan, to be conservative. And that's part of it. But we also have a journal entry for CalSTARS on behalf. It's just a journal entry that we have to do every year. It doesn't really affect the books, but it does seem an increase from last year to this year that we have to book in there when we close the books. And the other increase is due to the 10% on the benefit cap. As you remember, last year we budgeted that, but it was only from half a year, from January through June. Now going to the new year, that increase is budgeted for the whole year, and that's why you see a greater increase on the benefit sides. Books and supplies, most of it is a reduction due to the book adoption, which it was pretty close to $1 million, and then other materials and supplies that we had under one-time funds as well. Other services, we had a lot of one project this closing year, including the new camera system from the one-time grant, the CalShape grant, as well as the expenses. We have the district office project painting, the new alarm system that we got this year, the upgrade, that was another increase, the tree removal, the plumbing work, the water leaks. We had also savings on SPED legal fees. Compared to this new year, we removed those. We have settlement fees with SPED as well. They expire this closing year. We removed those. We also had other contract services exiting middle school for special ed that we don't have that liability or that expense. So we removed those. Keep in mind that we're starting a new year. Like I said, this is the first draft of the budget. And as we get new students incoming into the district with new needs for special ed, you're most likely going to see an increase. As well as the bottom line, which there is a reduction by 130. That's mainly due to the SPED program we have through MCOE. There is a reduction in there. Again, once the students start enrolling and depending on what type of needs they need, you're going to be seeing increases. Hopefully not, but this is most likely, it is going to happen every year it happens. So overall, deficits are actually the difference between the closing year and the new year, 3.9 overall reduction compared to prior year. And we are projecting still a deficit spending of $4.5 million for this July 1st budget. Right, so this is our unrestricted ending fund balance. As you can see, for this new year, we're still able to maintain our 17% reserves. And we have set aside money for, like I mentioned, most likely we're going to have increases on special ed. Safety is also something that we put as our priority. So anything related with safety that we need to address right away, and anything that we still need that some of the one-time funds are not covering, we might be able to use those funds from the ending fund balance. All right, so this is the multi-year projection. Again, this is the first draft. I'm going to be updating the numbers as we move forward. Just to give you a recap, when I presented the first interim budget, we talked about recognizing sometime during 24-25 that we needed to decrease a $2 million budget. Like I mentioned before, we worked through the first $500,000, which was due to the absences and savings on the substitute teachers. We also work on about $500,000 savings on contract services, which we multi-funded through ELOP, LCAP, and other restricted programs. So we were able to reduce that $1 million. The other $1 million that we recognize at the end of this year, which is now effective on the 25-26, was those vacancies that we had for teachers that were not filled, teachers moving away, retirees, etc. That's the savings. And then on the 26-27, we have about $2.2 million of one-time funds that are included in the budget. And now there is a proposal that we're going to get more funding on that. So you are going to see a change once the 45-day budget revision, once they sign the budget. They're talking about more learning recovery grants. So hopefully we can continue and we don't have to cut this to $2.2 million. And then in addition with that, we also need an additional $1 million out of the unrestricted to be able to meet that 17%. And then on the third year out, we need another $1.5 million of unrestricted. The reason why we keep on needing to cut is because of decline enrollment, because of the COLA, and again, because everything is going up, special ed, benefits, salaries, step and column, and just services overall, they keep going up. So for us to be able to maintain the budget and maintain that 17%, we have to be making cuts every year, unless we get more funding.
So on there, for example, 27, 28, you're projecting that we need to make $4.7 million in cuts. Is that what?
Yeah, so that is including the 3.2 from the prior year. It is on the multi-year projection. I didn't put it on the top because we know we have to make cuts, but we haven't recognized where are we going to make the cuts, if it's going to be books and supplies, salaries. So if we don't recognize it in one specific line, then we put it as a lump sum at the bottom of the multi-year projection. That's why it's a lump sum, and it's not specifically somewhere in the expenditure of the multi-year agreement. It's just to acknowledge that we know we have to make the cut, and we're gonna work on it, and identify where, in what areas, just like we did on the 24-25. We knew we have to do a $2 million cut. We didn't know where. We work it out. We found savings. We work through the contract services. We look into positions. So once we identify those, then they're gonna be reduced on those specific lines.
Okay, but when you're saying that, for example, the $4.7 million cut includes the prior year cut, is that because it's carrying over the same, it's already a reduction in cost for the next year?
Yeah, so the reason why it's included on the 27, 28 is because it's not reduced on that expenditure line, it's not included there. It's just a line below. So if I would have moved that number, it's just the way that the form in the MYP works. That's just the way that the county does it. But it's not yeah, it's just like,
Not a what? It's not a what?
Because we haven't done it yet, so it's assuming that it continues on, that it wasn't made up in that year, because you're projecting, right? So the next year, the 27, 28 is assuming it wasn't cut in the 26,
Right.
27.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, that's
So,
do you guys catch that?
easier way
So
to
essentially, we didn't make we didn't make a $3.2 million cut in the 26, 27. Is that what I understand?
yeah,
So, okay, so
Yeah.
we didn't make it in 26, 27. If we don't make it that year, then we have to make it
then
the
it's
following year.
4.7.
So is it the same thing happen? Okay. Okay.
It's 2 million. 24,
Okay. All right.
Thank
That
you.
makes a lot more sense, because I was like, oh, like that's a big cut, and then the cost goes down as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, a big part of it is due to the one-time funds that we have. However, we are estimating to receive more based on the proposal budget. So hopefully most likely by the 45-day budget revision, it's not going to look like 4.7. It's going to look differently based on the allocation that we get. Right? So Fund 08, we're not making any changes in there. We're projecting same revenue as we're closing the years. Again, this is when they do fundraising, and the numbers can really vary depending on the number of sales that they do. So for right now, this is the best estimate. We haven't started the year, so it's just the first, like I said, the first draft of the budget for the year. Or cafeteria fund as well, we're projecting about pretty similar revenue increases on step and column for our classified employees, and increases on benefits as well.
Just a quick question on that.
Mhm.
Projected reduction of SNAP and various other federal programs coming. How much of that is going to be touching there?
So the cafeteria fund is, so the proposal from the cuts for federal funding, it was specifically for EL and migrant. It wouldn't affect our cafeteria fund. We get a large portion as well from state funding, as you can see. So since we've been getting funding for the universal meal reimbursement, we've been doing pretty good. As you can see, every year we end up with a surplus. We have, if you see at the ending fund balance, we have a pretty healthy reserve in there that can last few years if cuts. But yeah, there's no proposal for this specific grant. In the contrary, they want to give more funding for that. They really focus on making sure there's a lot of PD for employees to ensure that they make healthy and in-house meals. So you might see items in the board coming up for PD for those specific employees, that they're going to conferences and getting training in the state or probably out of state. They have really good funding for that. Okay, this is our Fund 14, or these are the funds that were set aside to help with the beautification of the district. As you know, they've been using these funds to do painting, to fix anything that looks kind of damaged or old, and making sure like it's just clean, it looks better. They've been patching and painting, and just doing removing old equipment or things like that. We are expecting to finish the funds. Last time I met with Victor, he's projecting to utilize all the funds. They've been working a lot on it. So going forward to the next year, there's no funds available for this fund. This is a one-time funds that we put aside specifically for that purpose. Or Fund 21. So this is our bond fund. And as you know, we've been working a lot. Victor's been working a lot on these facility projects. On the closing year, the projects that we budgeted in there mainly was for a portion of the New Republic and McKinnon shade structure, as you know, that happened during last summer. And also the 3 additional portables at La Jolla, which happened on the last summer at the beginning of the closing school year. GV project as well, the relocation of the portables, the demolition expense as well. And right now, under that side, they're working on the underground and preliminary work for the 11 classrooms and 1 flex lab building, again for GV. We also have budgeted in there the 4 play structures at each elementary school, multi-funded from Fund 21 and ELOP funds, and as well as the preliminary underground work for the John Gutierrez 6 classrooms with the courtyard. So that's for this closing year. That's what we have in there. We are budgeting to spend all of the funds. And then going into the July 1st budget, we are anticipating receiving Series B funding for $7.1 million, and then additional funding for Series C through a bond anticipation note. You're going to get more information about this. Like I said before, this is just the first draft. So as we move forward and we get more information about those numbers can really change depending on the market. So we're going to be updating you and revising those numbers as we move forward. So something I didn't mention for it, but for the July 1st budget, for that $13.3 million that you see that, most of the expense that we have in there, it is to pay for the 11 classrooms at GV and the 1 flex lab. Again, finish the project for the 6 classrooms at John Gutierrez and the Garden de location, and La Jolla portable for the restroom. So going to Fund 25, this is the developer fees. This is how much we received this year. And we are anticipating to spend about $25,000. We are anticipating hopefully similar, if not more. But as of now, these are pretty much the fees that residents pay whenever they're building in their homes. So we are going to be updating these numbers as we move forward. Again, this is just an estimate based on last year's numbers. Or Fund 35, no activity on the new budget, on the new year. As you know, this is where we purchased the land for Sabrana, and that's all we have there as expenditures, and nothing for next year. And that's pretty much it. Fund 40, it has no activity, but just as a reminder, that's where we had set aside the $3 million, 1.5 for GV and 1.5 for John Gutierrez. We did borrow $500,000 to fund 35 to purchase the Sabrana land. And with the resolution, we said that we're gonna return it back once we get the money from the state. So just in case you see the budget report that is showing a 2.5, it is because of the interfund transferring. And these are the forms that we have in there. Same forms for all the budgets, cash form, transfers, and or multi-year projection, which is pretty much a summary of the whole budget. And that's about it. You have any questions?
And the last comment, and I'm sure we haven't heard any update as far as like the state reimbursement or if that's approved or not yet. Okay. Any questions or comments on the board?
Just to clarify your question, that was the state reimbursement for the Sabrana site that you were asking
Yeah,
about?
the
Okay,
extra
yeah,
amount over what they had
understood.
given us originally.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
You know, Elva, maybe you have a better perspective than I do, but I've never seen projection of 3 negative years in a row. You know, that concerns me.
For
Well,
funding or
funding, yeah, and the growth in expenses, but I think these are the critical years.
Mhm.
Yeah, these next three. I meant what I said regarding maybe being a little bit more conservative than the state guidance if possible. I would like to get clarification if that is possible with MCOE. But yeah, I'm Elva. I've 15 years, whatever. I've never
We've
seen
been
a
there,
three.
yeah.
You've been there?
We've been there where we had the negative on these, and it was pretty grim, but hopefully, I mean, I want to be hopeful, and I want to make sure that we're going to be looking okay, but it is a little concerning. It is.
Sorry, a large part of the negatives, carrying forward is recognizing the elimination of those one-time funds.
Mhm.
And so helping our community and folks to understand we've been preparing for that cliff because these are going to expire, then these are going to expire. And so recognizing that as a negative to our budget and recognizing that some of those great services that we were able to offer, no matter how much we describe them as temporary and letting people know, those are going to impact what we're able to offer our students. And so being hopeful that the state will, give districts an influx, because a lot of those one-time dollars, not just our district, but across the state, were used to help in some of the mental health crisis that we saw with students coming back to us after COVID. And so thinking we just need to all of a sudden not have those services without those dollars. And so hopefully the state will recognize the need to continue some of that funding for us, because we, along with our neighboring districts, were able to put in some really important and effective measures to help our students and our learning community as a whole. And so it's difficult when you show that negative repeatedly and having to articulate that a big chunk of it is that lack of the one-time funds being recognized. And ideally, early on, we would have maybe had less one-time funds and more of an ongoing so that we could have known exactly what could be sustained with that. But that's not how that occurred in the last 5 years.
And I think even with the LCAP funding, because even we had $500,000 left over from the previous year, and it's like you need to spend it this year, versus kind of changes it and stuff. Yeah. The other thing that's kind of interesting about so I know there has been declining birth rates, but what I've been noticing too is the lack of development. Hollister's has crazy amount of building, and if you look at their enrollment and stuff, so it'd be interesting to see how much students or families are leaving in that direction, because that's what the development is, at their time. Because I know they're bursting at the seams with, I mean, they need a new high school forever, but they're really bad position now. Say it again.
Housing, especially within our district.
Yeah, it's
There's a lot of potential at the moment. for
yeah,
growth.
because they for California there was a couple of years where they had declining population, but actually in the last couple of years it's been increasing again. But the challenges we've had been having declining birth rates, and then in our city locally is we haven't had any development.
Yeah.
Versus everybody around us has had development, so it's like it kind of
And unfortunately, we've gotten no indication or news that the development in the West Area specific plan is moving forward, or if there's a new timeline, or if any of the plans have
We're gonna
actually been
start.
approved and that the developers are moving forward with that project that they promised our community years ago.
yeah, and there's nothing holding them back on our end anymore either. It's like
No, and
like
then
ready to go and stuff. Yeah.
our student enrollment is going down,
Yeah.
down. And so, yeah, you're right. As far as the development, we need to start, well, they need to start
Yeah.
building so we can,
Yeah, and there's no hindrance. I think just so the public knows, like on any other parts besides whatever's going on in there. So,
and back in the day, 15 years ago, like you said, it was a whole different world then. We almost didn't open up JG, and it was it was a very scary time at the time too, but we got over it, and that's why I'm saying I'm just trying to be hopeful.
I was just going to add that I just want to say thank you to a lot of our community partners who were willing to really sit down at the table with us and find creative ways using the funding we had to continue services. So between multi-funding with ELOP and adjusting hours so that staff are serving students till 6 p.m., it provided the opportunity to multi-fund that so that there was during the day services as well as those after-school services, which allowed us to continue that. So many of our mental health and some of our other community partnerships, we've been able to adjust the way that looks so that we can make sure that those services continue for our students as well. So thank you to Rosa and to our community partners for really looking at where funds are and how we can make that happen.
And yeah, and Rosa, you've been very conservative with the district money. So, I mean, with the funding and stuff. So thank you for that.
Okay, so there's other questions. I'm going to close the hearing at 7:04.
I have
Oh,
one.
sorry, apologies.
It's okay. Have you looked at the TK data for our incoming kids to see if the age expansion, if we're actually having children enroll in that new cohort?
So, for us, because of that September 1st, it means that we would have some 3-year-olds for a month. We aren't seeing those 3-year-olds. We've had 2 enrolled district-wide so far. Overall, TK enrollment has been, as it's kind of as usual, a couple sites really high and really fast, and our other sites continue to remain low, but we haven't seen a big impact from the expansion. We're really watching for those 3-year-olds to make sure that we're prepared for them. And as of right now, we haven't noticed an increase.
And just to clarify, the age range has now changed so that you would need to be 5 by, pardon me, 4 by September 1st. In other words, so in August when the children would start, some of them could theoretically be 3. So this is a new cohort of children, a new expanded age that has not been eligible for TK in our district in the past. I'm curious in terms of obviously I would like those children to be in school, and if they're not enrolled in one of our preschool programs or one of our community partner preschool programs, that we would take, this would hopefully, the idea is a better service to the child, but also the fact that we do have declining enrollment, then we have, several months worth of children who would be eligible for school that potentially could help with that problem.
And with that, I'll just add, I did talk with the new director of early learning. So Sofia Jaramillo has retired. There's a new director there, Annabelle. And I did talk to her, and what they're seeing so far is those 3-year-olds, especially our 3-year-olds that were in program, staying in program because they're still eligible for Head Start at that age. They're not required to come into a TK program. So because it's subsidized, so their families aren't paying for them to continue there. They're seeing right now, especially those earlier 3-year-olds, stay put. So her and I continue to stay in communication.
No, good to know. Okay. At this time, it is 7:06, and I'll close the hearing. Thank you, Rosa. 8.3, information, first reading of resolution 25.06.10.
Okay, thank you. So this is basically our information item. It serves as a notification that for our next board meeting, we would be bringing this back to the board for approval of our resolution to go ahead and seek the sale of our Series B bond. And so that would be come back to you as a resolution. And originally we were, when we passed our bond back in November of 2022, we estimated that we would seek Series B approximately 2026. And so in looking at the market, working with Miguel Rodriguez, in searching out and making sure that our timing, Rosa did a great job explaining this with our bond committee, that you look to have drawn down on your Series A right in the right timeline for when you are going to acquire your Series B so that your projects have continuity. Luckily, the way that we have staged our projects and the funding with the lease back potential and being able to do lump sums over time allow for that to work really effectively. So Miguel put together the package for us to pursue this sale instead in 2025. And so Series B, originally scheduled 2026, are estimated now to be sold in early August 2025. And we're looking for the amount of around $7 million as originally planned. And then as we go forward, the possible maximization of our avenue to do a bond anticipation note ahead of Series C to be able to access those funds. It is a great method without a huge amount of cost for the district to access those funds earlier as needed so that we can keep our projects going. And so that would be brought back as a BAN or a ban for you for the bond anticipation note to bring it forward from a 2030 Series C bond to come back to us a little early so that we can access that fund to keep our projects going. And so that would allow us to preserve that future issuance for the Series C, maintain that total required tax rate that we have under the Prop 39, which is our limit that we set of $30 per $100,000 of assessed property value. And so the Series B would be structured as the current interest bonds with a repayment of 35 years. And then that tentative, if we're going to access it, and we wouldn't necessarily need to pursue the entire 7 million. What we want to do is get a better picture of our estimates for our ongoing construction once we have those contracts in place. And so our anticipation note might come in lower than that, but just going ahead and front loading in the event that we do want to do that early. But we will be bringing forward the resolution for our Series B bond sale at our upcoming meeting.
Okay, so this is just the first reading, nothing to approve. No questions? Okay. 9.1, approval of certificated AB 1200, certificated public disclosure.
That is my item as well. And as you know, we're required to have a public disclosure, which is the AB 1200, filling out the budget information and the total cost for the agreement with SRTA. So this is pretty much increasing the 24-25 certificated salary schedule by 2% for SRTA effective July 1st, 2025, and increasing the 25-26 certificated salary schedule by another 2% across the board effective July 1st, 2026, as well as increasing the class size stipend for $350 to $400 effective July 1st, 2025, and also increasing the certificated hourly from $48 an hour to $50 an hour for the overall total cost of $928,826 for the 2 years. As you remember, when I was doing the presentation, this cost is already included in the budget. And I talk a little bit during my budget hearing. It is included in there. And if this is approved, it will go for adoption on the next board meeting, which is the 25th, I believe, June 25th.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
So motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion 4-0.
Okay, 9.2, approval of the tentative agreement for the 2025-2026 negotiations between the Santa Rita Union Teachers Association and the Santa Rita Union School District.
Yes, so we met with SRTA over the months of May, April and May, and we came up to this TA, which Rosa already explained, agreeing to a 2% for the 25-26, and then another 2% salary increase for the 26-27. And you get to see there the summary of everything else that has been negotiated. I'm not going to go over all of it all over again, but I do want to say that we are very grateful and we want to thank SRTA negotiating team for the collaborative relationship that we have and the amazing work that they do. They're very aware of the constraints that we have, and we appreciate the relationship that we have with them.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion
Arm wrestle.
later in the
So
parking lot.
when, I'm scared now. A second.
Okay,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
4-0.
Okay, congratulations, one step closer. So 9.3, approval of updated job description for executive assistant to the superintendent.
Yes, we have revised the job description for this position, and we have changed the title from administrative assistant to executive assistant. The new job description reflects the new responsibilities, added responsibilities, and you get to see the required qualifications and skills needed to succeed in this assignment.
Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion 4-0.
Okay, approval of the revised classified management salary schedule.
So after revising the job description for the executive assistant to the superintendent, we also conducted a salary study, and we are proposing here a 10% salary increase. So you see the salary schedule reflecting that, as well as we have changed the ranges from numeric to alphabetic. Instead of having numbers go in both directions, it's easier to have letters in one direction and numbers in the other. We also updated the salary, not the salary, but the benefit increases that were approved by the board back in March of 2025.
So, are we done with fixing the issues regarding reclassification, terms, fixing the salary schedule? I mean, this has been an ongoing process for a few years. So are we finally done with this, or do we have more updates to do?
We do. We have more. And so as we see the need and the positions rise to the top, we look at them and we review them. It's a process. It's impossible to do all of them at once. So we're taking it slowly. And as we identify those positions that are in great need, I will tell you that there are some job descriptions that have not been updated for a long time. So as we identify those, then we bring them forward. So you will see more coming in the future.
I mean, for me, it's, you know, if we're gonna clean it up, I mean, you know, shorter the time frame, the better. That at least we have fixed costs where we can trust and work on, rather than having to fix things and having incurring costs in order to fix stuff that we could have done in the past. You know, so I'm not critiquing the process. What I'm critiquing is trying to squeeze the time period down a little bit so we can get it set now. I mean, I've been here God knows how many years, and we've been fixing this for, you know, 10 years or more or so. And so it's just an additional hit that it's hard to project.
Right.
So if we could get all the stuff done, then we know we have fixed costs that are relatively going to be unchanged over the future. We can count on numbers. Right now, I can't count on numbers, you know, because I don't know what's going to come next. So my suggestion or hope is that the sooner we clean it up finally, permanently, and then do yearly adjustments as needed, you know, that's what I would like to see.
Sure.
I'm just tired of having so many years of trying to update, fix, reclassify. This was not supposed to be here. The terms have changed here. So whatever we can do to shorten the process so we can get a finality in terms of trusting that the systems and the classifications and the pay are equitable and are set, and we can just do yearly adjustments rather than to reclassify or redo this or that, you know? So I'm glad we're in the process.
Right.
The sooner we get it done, the better, is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. We will try to pace ourselves. I know that Rosa being right here next to me, she's going to tell me slow down. So we have to be cognizant of that as well.
Yeah, no,
So,
I understand that the additional cost is sooner rather than later, and dragging it out is cheaper in the long run. I understand
Totally.
that. Yes.
So part of it is capacity, because you got to work together with Rosa as far as.
We do, and we have to work also with the union groups, depending on the classifications that are being impacted and affected. So we identify the needs collaboratively, and we bring that forward. So it's a process.
Does
Yeah.
that typically happen around the times the negotiations occur, or is that how's it?
It can happen outside of negotiations. Mhm.
When it kind of when it's identified and then
Correct.
trying to figure out a way to bring that as a solution?
Yes.
Yeah. And how does it typically get identified? Is it some like either the unions are bringing it forward or just coming up across it and then you just
It's a
kind of
combination. There are some positions that will evolve quicker than others. So it's, it can be sometimes the employee, sometimes the union, sometimes us. We see that we have, given more responsibilities, higher responsibilities to the individuals, which then calls for a reclassification. So yes, you will see more coming through.
And
okay, so sorry, go ahead, Rosa.
I just wanted to add to what Claudia was mentioning. Since COVID, there has been a lot of changes, especially, for example, in my office. We are switching from the unrestricted, as you know, we're getting less of that money, but then we keep getting this one-time funds and this, like, for example, the ELP is a huge grant now that we have to manage. So a lot of things are changing around. There's a lot of way new compliance, a lot of work, a lot of reporting, not only for my department, but for other departments, special ed department as well, other positions. So as we move forward, once we think like, okay, this is it. When I remember when I came to the district, that was the first thing we did, making sure that the job descriptions matched to what we were actually doing. And now after almost 6 years, things have changed slowly, they keep changing. So it's always a good time to go back and say like, hey, looking at those job descriptions, does this even match? We don't have this grant anymore, but we have this one. So we need to take this out. We need to include this, or we have new compliance, we have new reporting. A lot of it's new compliance, new reporting, more paperwork that we've been doing a lot, especially in my office and other offices. Just understand.
Because we want to have a fixated target. It's a constant moving
It's
target,
moving,
just
it's
like the
moving.
budget. But yes, we will aim at doing what we can.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the feedback. Okay.
And
Go ahead.
just one other comment, Claudia, and I don't know if this has come to you, but it was a process that I feel like was started and not finished. We had conversations in terms of, and this is especially in regards to classified staff, in terms of people having the same job description and then what they actually have to do being very different, and sometimes just because of numbers. And we talked about it in regards to custodial staff. We talked about it in regards to clerical staff. In terms of you're feeding 450 kids, you're feeding 650 kids, but somehow you're being paid the same. And those conversations got started, and I never felt like there was a resolution in terms of talking about, what's equitable across the different school sites.
Planning it out, I can tell you that we have started that conversation with CSEA because it's planning it out, right? I mean, we want to be able to get to all the positions, but the reality is that it's difficult, it's challenging, because there's different things that we have to consider, including the budget. Yeah.
Okay.
Having said that, I motion to approve. Madam
Okay.
Board. It's
All right.
it's needed, necessary.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Captain.
Motion 4-0.
Okay, 9.5, approval of revised 2025-26 school calendar.
Yeah, we have revised this calendar just to reflect a few changes. We're reflecting now the optional certificated PD days for July 30th and the 31st, and then the mandatory classified professional development day for October 13th. And also we changed the last day for 11-month employees just to capture the correct number of days, work days for them.
Okay.
Main question, as always, how aligned are we with the other school districts, especially high school?
We are very fortunate. I have to say that I've been in other districts and we are very well aligned with both of the districts. We kind of wait for them to see, especially the high school, to see where they're going, and then we just follow suit.
Thank you. Because, to me, it's loss of revenue, when we have they're not going there, so they're not going there. So, the closely aligned we are, the better. I just wish the high school would do it earlier. There doesn't seem to imperative, and I'm part of that district, so I've been complaining about it as well. So, but yeah, there needs to be an earlier set of calendaring. Having said that, motion to approve. Or is it a motion? Yeah.
Yes, motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion 4-0.
Okay, approval of E-rate consulting contract services.
Thank you. This is just approval of our ongoing and continuing consulting contract services with David Sonderegger, who assists us with our E-rate applications.
Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion. So approved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion 4-0.
Okay, approval of contract with Premier Builders Incorporated.
Okay, thank you. We put our project out to bid, and conducted our mandatory pre-bid walk, on May 7th for our district office front lobby modernization. That's the removal and replacement of the front window, storefront, to be more secure and safe, as well as a, entranceway redo with a service window. And 2 general contractors attended that bid walk, and on May 20th, 2 bids were submitted. Premier Builders Incorporated were the responsible low bidder at $266,992.
Motion. Can I get a
So
motion?
motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion 4-0.
Okay, approval of MOU with Marlene Bazan.
So this one, I've brought to you the last couple years, clinical supervision for our social workers. I'm really excited that one of our school counselors is now also seeking her clinical licensure, which always benefits us to have staff trained at that clinical level. So our counselor at New Republic Elementary will be working with Marlene to do the required hours to seek her clinical licensure.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion 4-0.
Okay, approval of a contract with Animal Damage Management.
Thank you. This is our annual contract for our central kitchen, representing for Chuck Helm. It is at a monthly service fee of $100 per site for a total estimate of $8,400 for the school year.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion
Kathy.
4-0.
Wow, what's going on with that?
No, Elba, they used to call it pest control.
Can I approve item 9.10, approval of SLP contract for the 2025-26 school year?
Jeez.
So I'll present this item for Melanie. So this is just a continuation of a contract for speech therapists. Again, our goal is always to recruit and have a speech therapist hired through the district, and that will continue while this person is in service as well. These services will be in person.
Can I get a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion 4-0.
Okay, and our last item, 9.11, approval of CSBA Board Policy Manual Maintenance for 2025.
We are always catching up with our board policy manual maintenance. These are our spring policies, and I want to thank our trustee Sarah Turner for reviewing these manual maintenance policies. I did want to highlight the updated language in the student mobile device policy that has come out from the state, and if selected, we opted for the more prohibitive option in that board policy. And so that was also the recommendation of our District Safety and Wellness Committee and the subcommittee that reviewed policy, asking for clarification that if we could just add and adjust any language so that it's prohibited use, allowing for those legal uses that we are obligated to allow per law and ed code. So under certain circumstances or under provision for certain student need based on things like IEP, that they must have access to those devices.
I'm sure that you all read through all of those hundreds of pages like I did with due diligence. It was interesting to me. It's always interesting. I would just ask the all of the cabinet to make sure that all of our things going forward, that we make sure to use the correct phrases in regards to our special education department. That was a law change, just so that you guys are aware of that. Some of the laws were sad to me, that, you know, in terms of you don't have to have a law unless somebody's doing something inappropriate. And there was a huge section of law banning school districts from adopting books that discriminate against people. And it's sad to me that that has to be a law in the state of California. But I understood why that was the case, and there was a large section of law around that. My thanks to all of the people who did all the pre-work before me for making it an easy thing for me to review, although I do take it very seriously, and I appreciate all the consideration that's put into it.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
Okay, can I get a second? I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Motion 4-0.
okay, our next regular board meeting is June 25th, 2025. Is there any suggested future board items?
Yeah, I would love to visit our ongoing issues with our solar and battery and like to know where we are with that and are, are we able to go
We
at each site? How long? What's the capacity? How much they're charging us per watt? Did we get any type of consideration considering batteries?
Mr. Patel, we had some updates on that this spring, and so I can make sure that we get you that information that we presented.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Okay, it's 7:29. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Okay, have a nice evening, everyone.
Thank you.